Hello, hello, hello. A very warm welcome to all our listeners joining us today from every corner of the world. You are listening to Special English Corner, the place where we learn English and explore amazing stories at the same time. I'm your host, Mark, and today, well, Sharon, I hope you don't mind, but I am currently lying on the floor of the studio looking at the ceiling.
And I'm Sharon. Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. The ceiling. Mark, we have guests waiting, and you are on the floor? Why are you looking at the ceiling? Is there a spider, or did you lose your glasses again? You know they're usually on your head, right?
No, my glasses are safe. I am looking up because today we are talking about things that are far, far above this ceiling. We are talking about the vast blue sky, the shining stars, and the incredible machines that fly around our planet. Today, listeners, we are talking about satellites.
Oh, satellites. That is a very big word for our beginners, but it is such an important one. Listeners, a satellite is a machine that people send into space. It travels around the Earth, we call this orbiting, and it helps us with so many things. It gives us GPS so we don't get lost, it tells us if it will rain tomorrow, and it even makes this podcast possible through the internet. Usually, giant companies or powerful governments build them. They cost millions, sometimes billions of dollars.
Exactly. They are usually built by thousands of experts in white coats in huge factories. But what if I told you that in a city in the far north of China, where the wind is cold but the hearts are warm, a group of university students, young people just like many of you, built their own satellites?
You must be talking about the incredible students at the Harbin Institute of Technology, or HIT. This university is like the star of space in China. They have a very special story, Mark. In Harbin, students don't just read about rockets in dusty old books. They actually pick up tools and build things that go into the darkness of space.
It sounds like a science fiction movie, doesn't it? Imagine being a 20-year-old student. Your friends are playing video games or going to the movies, but you have to call your mom and say, "Mom, I can't come home for dinner tonight. I'm sorry, but I have to finish building my satellite. We're launching it soon."
It sounds funny, but it is 100% true. HIT is famous for its small satellites. For our listeners, small here doesn't mean it's a toy. Usually, these satellites are about the size of a shoebox or a desktop computer. We call them CubeSats. But even though they are small, they are incredibly smart. They have brains made of silicon and hearts made of pure ambition.
I love that. In this long episode, we are going to use simple English to tell the full story of these star builders. We will talk about how a small club of students became a world-class space team. We will talk about the long nights in the lab, the cold pizza, the difficult math, and that magic moment when their baby finally reached the stars.
We have divided our story into 5 detailed parts today. We will go slowly, explain the hard words, and make sure you feel like you are right there in the lab with us. So, fasten your seatbelts, check your oxygen levels, and let's get ready for liftoff.
Sharon, before we get into the technical stuff, I want to ask about a name. I heard that the students at HIT have a favorite flower. It is the lilac flower. In Chinese, it is called zi-ding-shang. It's a very pretty purple flower. But why is a delicate flower important for a heavy space project?
That is one of my favorite parts of the story, Mark. The lilac is the city flower of Harbin. If you visit Harbin in the spring, the whole city smells like lilacs. They're small, but they are very, very strong. They can survive the freezing, long winters of the north and still bloom beautifully when the sun comes out.
So the flower represents the students, small but tough.
Exactly. So when the students decided to build their first real satellite, they didn't give it a boring number. They named it Lilac 1. It was a way to take a piece of their home city and send it into the stars.
That is very romantic. But Sharon, let's be honest, was it easy? I mean, if I want to build a birdhouse, I struggle. How does a student start building a spaceship? Did the professors just do all the work and let the students watch?
No, that is the most amazing thing about the HIT model. At HIT, the university believes in a philosophy called learning by doing. They didn't just give the students a textbook, they gave them a lab, some very expensive tools, and said, here is a dream, now you lead the way. We will watch and help, but you are the engineers.
Wow, if I was a 19-year-old student, I would be shaking. Where do you even begin? A satellite is so complex. It needs a battery that won't explode, a computer that can survive radiation, a camera to see the Earth, and a radio to talk to people millions of miles away.
The students started very small. They formed a club called the Lilac Small Satellite Team. In the beginning, they didn't have much. They spent their weekends, their summer holidays, and even their Chinese New Year breaks in the lab. They made hundreds of mistakes. Imagine spending a month building a circuit board and then, zap, it burns out because of one tiny mistake.
I would probably cry and go home.
Many of them wanted to, but they didn't. They treated the satellite like their own child. They even talked to it. They learned everything from scratch. They learned how to weld tiny wires under a microscope. They learned how to write thousands of lines of code.
And then came Lilac 2. I heard that was the one that really changed everything.
Yes, Lilac 2 was a tiny hero. It weighed only about 12 kilograms. That's like a heavy suitcase, but it was a giant leap for the students. It was the first satellite in China to be designed, built, and controlled entirely by university students. Most of the people on the team were under the age of 25.
Think about that, listeners. At 23 or 24, most people are worried about their first job interview or what to wear to a party, but these HIT students were already ship captains of a vessel sailing in the ocean of space.
And because they were young, they were brave. They used new materials that the big experts were afraid to use. They used cheaper parts to prove that space can be friendly and affordable. They showed that you don't need $1 billion to touch the sky. You just need a great team and a hardcore spirit.
We've talked about the dream and we've talked about the flower, but now we have to talk about the hardcore life. Sharon, we always hear that HIT is a hardcore university. For our English learners, hardcore means something is very serious, very intense, and requires a lot of strength. What does a hardcore day look like in the satellite lab?
Well, Mark, let's put it this way. The lights in the HIT satellite lab almost never go out. If you walk past the building at 3 a.m., you'll see a faint glow from the windows. Inside, you won't find people partying. You'll find students surrounded by computer screens and piles of wires.
That sounds like a lot of coffee and very little sleep.
Yes, coffee is their best friend, but it's not just about staying up late. It's about strictness. Remember the HIT motto we always mention? Strict in qualifications, making every endeavor at mastery. In the satellite lab, this isn't just a wall decoration. It's a law of life.
Why is it so strict? Can't they just be mostly right?
Mark, space is a very lonely and dangerous place. There is no AAA or repair shop in orbit. If a single screw is loose or if there is one tiny bug in the computer code, you cannot fly up there with a screwdriver to fix it. If it fails, millions of hours of work disappear in a second. So the students have to test everything 100 times, then 500 times, then 1,000 times.
I heard they have a special room called the vacuum chamber. That sounds like a place from a horror movie.
It's not for ghosts, but it is scary for machines. Space is a vacuum, which means there is no air. It is also a place of extreme temperatures. It can be 100 degrees hot in the sun and 100 degrees cold in the shade. The students put their satellite into this metal box for days and weeks. They watch the sensors. They wait to see if the metal cracks or if the computer freezes.
They must be so nervous. It's like waiting for a doctor to tell you if your friend is okay.
Exactly. And the students don't leave. They take turns guarding the star. They sleep on folding beds or even on the floor next to the machines. They want to be there if the satellite cries for help.
Why do they do it, Sharon? I mean, they're not getting a huge salary. They're just students. Is it just for a good grade?
No, it's much deeper than a grade. They call it a mission. In English, a mission is a very important task that you feel you must do with your whole heart. They feel they are representing their university and their country. They want to show the world that young Chinese engineers are among the best.
I also love the relationship with the professors. I heard the professors at HIT are like strict parents who are also your best friends.
That's a perfect description. The professors don't give the students the answers. If a student says, "Teacher, this wire won't work," the teacher won't fix it. The teacher will ask, "Why do you think it won't work? What did you miss?" They act as coaches. This is why HIT graduates are so famous in the industry. They don't wait for orders, they solve problems.
So the hardcore life isn't just about suffering. It's about growing. It's about turning a 20-year-old student into a star builder who can handle the pressure of the entire universe. Okay, Sharon, the years of hard work are finished. The satellite has survived the vacuum room. It has passed every test. It is clean, shiny, and packed into a special container. Now comes the day everyone dreams about and everyone fears. Launch day.
Oh, Mark, just talking about this gives me goosebumps. Listeners, goosebumps are those tiny bumps you get on your skin when you are very excited, very cold, or very scared. Imagine the scene. The students travel far away from Harbin to a launch site in the desert or the mountains.
They see the rocket, a giant white tower reaching toward the clouds. It looks like a huge finger pointing at the stars. Their small lilac satellite, their baby that they slept next to for months, is sitting right at the very top, hidden inside.
The atmosphere in the control room is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The students are wearing their teen jackets. They are sitting in front of rows of computers. They aren't talking. Some are praying, some are holding their breath.
And then the voice comes over the speakers. The countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
The ground shakes like an earthquake. A giant cloud of orange fire and white smoke fills the screen. The rocket moves slowly at first, like it is too heavy for the world. But then it gains speed. Faster, faster. It becomes a tiny, bright dot. And then it's gone into the blue.
For the students, this is the longest 10 minutes of their lives. They are watching the data lines on the screen. Rocket stage 1 separated, stage 2 separated. They are waiting for the most important moment, satellite separation.
That is when the satellite is pushed out of the rocket into the dark, cold vacuum of space. It is all alone now. No more students to hold it, no more professors to check it. It has to wake up.
They wait. 1 minute, 2 minutes, silence. And then a computer in Harbin starts to beep. A small green line moves on the screen. The satellite has sent its first signal back home. It's saying, "Hello, HIT, I am here. The view is beautiful and I am working perfectly."
The room explodes. The students are jumping, hugging, crying, and cheering. All those nights without sleep, all that cold pizza, all the times they failed. It was all for that one beep.
It's a victory for the Lilac team, but it's also a victory for everyone who has a dream. And the best part? The students go back to Harbin and they go to their ground station, a small building on campus with a big antenna. They can talk to their satellite as it flies over China. They can see the photos it takes, the white clouds, the deep blue oceans, and the lights of cities at night.
I heard that the Lilac 2 satellite even sent back a happy Chinese New Year message to everyone on Earth.
It was like a greeting from a young friend in the stars.
It shows that science doesn't have to be cold and mechanical. At HIT, space science is full of heart. It is the story of young people who dare to look up and say, I can build that.
So, Sharon, we have talked about the past, the lilac satellites, and the incredible moment of launch. But our listeners might be thinking, that's amazing for HIT students, but what about me? Does every student at HIT become a space engineer?
Not every student builds a satellite, Mark. Some study business, some study architecture, and some study social sciences. But the satellite culture at HIT is like the air they breathe. It teaches every student a very powerful lesson. Nothing is impossible.
That is a phrase we hear a lot, but at HIT, they actually prove it. They show that if you have a clear goal, a strict plan, and a team that never gives up, you can achieve things that the world thinks are only for experts or adults.
Exactly. And this is a very important message for our English learners, too. Sometimes learning a new language feels like building a satellite. In the beginning, you have no idea what you are doing. You make so many mistakes. Your code, your grammar has many bugs. Sometimes you feel like you want to quit.
I feel that way when I try to learn a new skill. You feel like your rocket will never leave the ground.
But remember the HIT students. They didn't have all the answers. They just kept testing, kept learning, and kept guarding their star. If you keep practicing your English every day, if you stay strict with your study plan, one day you will launch. You will be able to talk to people from all over the world. Your signal will be clear and strong.
I love that comparison, Sharon. We have a few final questions from our listeners before we end this journey. Q1 from Boris in Russia. Mark and Sharon, I'm a high school student. Is HIT only for Chinese students, or can international students join this space family?
Hi, Boris. HIT is very international. They have students from over 100 countries. If you are passionate about science and you are willing to work hardcore, the doors to the satellite labs are open to the world.
Q2 from May in China. I'm a girl and I'm worried that space engineering is only for boys. Is that true at HIT? Oh, May, absolutely not. Some of the smartest and most dedicated engineers on the Lilac team are women. Space doesn't care if you're a boy or a girl. It only cares if your mouth is right and your heart is in the mission.
Q3 from Linda in the USA. What is next for the HIT star builders? Are they going further? They never stop looking up, Linda. They are working on satellites that can fly in swarms like bees. They are even helping with China's missions to the moon and Mars.
For HIT students, the Earth is just the beginning. Well, our time is up for today. We've traveled from the freezing labs of Harbin to the silent, beautiful darkness of orbit.
Let's recap the spirit of the HIT star builders. For our listeners, 1. Dream big. Don't be afraid of the shoebox size. Small things can change the world. 2. Work hard. Embrace the hardcore life. Mastery comes from effort. 3. Stay gentle. Remember the lilac flower. Be tough, but keep your passion alive. 4. Never give up. Even if your rocket fails, build a better one. Wait for that beep.
Thank you for joining us at Special English Corner. I think I'm going to go outside tonight and look at the night sky and try to find a tiny purple lilac star.
And I'm going to go review my English satellite vocabulary.
Listeners, make sure to check the Canvas for today's learning guide and the 5-day study plan. It will help your English reach a higher orbit.
Stay curious, keep practicing, and never stop reaching for the stars.
Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.